All right, welcome to Tech Tips with Soldo Media. I'm Amanda, and I have now, after 3 months, got a good feel for the Sony A9III. Everybody who gets to have it ahead of time and do all the pre-reviews, you don't need to hear all of the Sony hype again. So what we do rather is we put it in the field and we really try to put these cameras through their paces when we review them. All right, now I'm gonna just, again, this is my third Sony camera this year. We did the A7RC, they'll correct it down there. We did that one, and then we did the AR5 there earlier, Alpha R5, but this is the Alpha 9III. And the big deal with this, of course, as you know, is global shutter. But we really put all the tests that we usually do with our cameras out there. I have some opinions, I have some thoughts. Just in comparison to the AR5, you're losing the 8K and you're losing the pixel shift. I really like the pixel shift as a photographer, especially as a scenics photographer. But this camera will kick butt when it comes to sports or anything like that. You'll see. So let's just start right off with my first set of tests. I did some photos, and in this case, this is the R5C, the Canon R5C versus the Sony Alpha 9III. And you can see just side by side, they're fairly similar. But when you do creep in on some of these, I still think that Canon has a major edge when it comes to sharpness on this. Now, I did get an opportunity to I went to Texas, and I took this with me. I went to go see some relatives out there and got to go to a zoo, and I did test the animal eye tracking. Here's like a little clip of, I saw some penguins and stuff in Texas. Not where you usually think you're gonna find penguins, but check it out. So there you can really see that was locked on to the penguin's eyes. Check this out. This is these were two, I'll have to think of what the name of the park was, but it's side by side pyramids. One was a Arctic ecosystem, the other was a tropical ecosystem. Check out the parrots in this one. Right? And now when we zoom in on that parrot eye, you really, really see how sharp this camera is and how quick it is to get that focus. I did find, like I said, it wasn't quite as reliable as the Canon for grabbing autofocus. We do have our Muffin Man autofocus test a little bit later, but again, I do feel that it holds up. I'll say that much. So here we did a couple of low light tests. And I just wanted to say with the photography, we did a long exposure with noise reduction and without noise reduction. And I did find it helps a little bit, the noise reduction. It's a great feature to have on the camera, but it's not magic. You know, it's better for you to light and expose properly, but it does help. Then you have two types of noise reduction in the photography mode in this camera. One is the long exposure one, the other one is high ISO. So let's take a look at that. All right, so all I did was increase the exposure for all of these in Luminar 1.8, 1.81, and you can actually see I see a bigger difference with the long exposures now that I'm looking at it closer than with the noise reduction versus no noise reduction than I see in the high ISO noise reduction. Now granted, I did do high ISO like way up at 25,600. I also have this picture I took in Texas that was really, really dark where they had all the animals, and this picture I underexposed, but look, when I boost it with the with the enhanced photo settings in Luminar, looks perfect. So the high ISO, we were at 25,600 ISO on these, and this is no noise reduction. This is low noise reduction, and this is normal noise reduction, just so that you can see the difference. Now, in the photography mode, I also found that you have a memo section. So you can just press the play button, press the function button, and you have a little icon here that says voice memo. You touch that, and you can either touch the little icon here to record. Okay, so I already did this one. Hold on. I got to go to one I didn't do. There. Yeah. See, you got a little record note right there. So you just press that, and it will record whatever you're saying, and then you can play back. You just press that, and it will record whatever you're saying. You can also use the center button and hold that in to record, and that will leave you a little note. So what's excellent about that, especially doing tests like this, I actually was saying in the camera at the same time, all right, this is the photo with low noise reduction. This is the photo with no noise reduction. This is the long exposure photo. And it matches the file name. I'll show you that here. It matches the file name, and it appears when you import the photos right with that file. So that's excellent. It's a great feature I'm super excited about. Now, what you've all been waiting for, the photo capabilities when you're shooting sports, when you're shooting motion. So I had Jake out there, and the nice thing is, so this thing shoots at 120 frames per second. So the R5C, I grabbed that. It has not nearly as close, but it has 20 frames per second. And I shot a sequence where Jake was hitting a golf ball with the R5C, and one where he was shooting with, I did it with the Alpha. And you can see if we play back really fast, this is what they look like side by side. But when we grab those pictures side by side, you can actually see in the Sony, the golf club is dead straight, where in the R5C, you can see it starting to bend. But Jake doesn't swing hard enough, I don't think. So I took a golf ball, and we did a little sequence with me just doing a chip shot. So here's the chip shots side by side, and you can play them back at real speed. They look almost like video, but when we take that still, look at that. I think that golf ball tells the entire story right there about why global shutter is such an awesome feature, especially if you're doing sports. Like, that picture is so perfect. So yeah, I was blown away by how incredible it was. So then I got playing with the continuous boost shooting, and I did a little shot here with these bubbles, and we were tracking the bubbles with the focus, and I look how sharp they are. Doesn't that look awesome? So the capabilities you're getting out of this camera are really incredible. The disadvantages, and you see them more and more, is the light on the sensor. This thing needs light for it to be effective, really. Its native ISO is 250 ISO, and versus the R5C, for example, you can be at 100 ISO no problem. You can put this down to 100 ISO, but even using S-Log3 and S-Cinetone, you have to set a special mode in this camera, which took me a while because I'm so used to just picking the picture profile. The S-Cinetone and the S-Log3 aren't in the normal picture profile setting. You actually have to select something called flexible ISO to activate those two picture profiles. So it's a little bit of a disadvantage when it comes to the light on the sensor. Now, over to video. If we just start, oh wait, no, not video yet. One more function that you should know about, the pre-capture. the pre-shutter, whatever you want to call it, it's awesome on this. So I had Jake kick a soccer ball, and I had my son record me recording him. And so I didn't start pressing the button with the burst shutter until Jake had already kicked the ball. But I set the pre-shutter. You can have it pre-recording at 5 seconds, or you can have it set so when you press half shutter, it'll start recording right away. Great feature, incredible feature. So you can actually see from the screen recording when exactly the purple line starts to flash around. That's when I press the trigger. But when we play back the clip and we check the still images, you can see I got the entire action all the way from when he impacted the ball, even though I didn't start shooting until he had already kicked the ball. So really incredible, this feature. You're not going to be sad about this, especially if you're a bird photographer. Now, when I showed you those pictures in Texas, I didn't really understand that feature. You know, I just got the camera. I went to go see some family over there. I hadn't really had a lot of time to go through it, but I wish that I had, because I would have had a lot more awesome pictures of those penguins jumping into the water. Like, I stood there at one point following one of the penguins back and forth like this as he walked on the rock. You know, come on. So pre-burst, that would have been the way for that. All right. Now we'll go over the video. Let's talk about rolling shutter. This is the A9 or the Alpha 9 III versus the Alpha R5. And you can see we tried once with Linus going on his longboard across the fence, and you couldn't really tell. So we get aggressive and we did like the whip pan, and then you really see there's no bending of those fence posts in the A9 III. All in the Alpha R5. And I mean, it's really noticeable. So there you're going to have another incidence where this camera is going to outperform. And that's why some people are saying this has like a real cinema look to it. It has that global shutter feel to it. You are going to have a nicer filmography experience with this camera in that sense. But again, bear in mind, it is a full frame sensor, but it sucks like an APS-C. I still think it's going to do better than a lot of the micro 4/3 cinema cameras out there. Maybe that's another test. Maybe we'll put this side by side with one of our Blackmagics and see how it looks. All right. Not today though. Today is just about my feelings after 3 months with this thing. Now we did some C-Log footage here with Linus, just so you can get a feel of the dynamic range. I put him in a terrible spot. He was blinded in one eye and shadow all over the other one. But you can see the recovery is pretty good. So you could be your own judge here. I thought they were pretty close anyway. I didn't find that the noise was too bad here in the A9 III, but you know, you be the judge. And then we did some more low light here. Now this is me recording, and I went from ISO 250 all the way up to 25/600. All right, and we'll just grab a little screen grab here. If we boost up at the 250, like boost up, if we like brighten the exposure in post, you can see where that noise is, and up all the way up to the end. If we just zoom in here, you can see the noise is there. It's not too bad though. I mean, I've seen worse. But it's not going to compete with some of the other cameras that are out there that are better suited for low light. All right, slow-mo. It can do slow-mo. Isn't that a pretty shot? I thought that was pretty. And then just for fun, I did some S-Cinetone here. This is without S-Cinetone. This is the log footage and then the grade. Well, it turns out pretty good. All right, so now the last thing we always do, oh my goodness, we have two last things we have to do. We'll start off with the vlogging test with Jake, so you can see the stabilization side by side. Again, the Alpha A9III and the Alpha R5.
So this is a selfie test. I have both of the cameras on a so-called selfie stick tripod, and I am now walking. They're both set on 24 millimeters. One is more zoomed in than the other. You see how stable this is. And, you know, not much to say here. I'm just walking around with two giant cameras.
Okay, so it's not a surprise. I don't see any difference. They're the exact same IBIS in both cameras, so that's not weird. And yeah, now what you've all been waiting for, Jake doing the Muffin Man. It performed fairly well, but maybe some of that is, you know, custom dialing the settings in a little bit. But compared to the Canons, which I use on a more regular basis, I'm just more comfortable with the autofocus in the Canons. They don't fail me very often. And I've had a couple of misses with the Sonys carrying them around. All right, final thoughts. I think when I picked this up, it was like almost 9,000 Canadian dollars. I got it over in Canada. I don't know if that's just because of their inflation, but I don't know if for me it's worth that much money. It's an excellent camera, and if I made all my bread and butter from sports photography or wildlife photography, then this would be the camera for me. But if I was going to choose between like doing cinema work, for that price, I'd start looking at the earlier version of the DJI 4D, for example, or a different kind of cinema camera. Of course, our C70, we have used that for almost, it's been our workhorse nonstop. And yeah, battery life, components that you could put in, I wouldn't, as much as this looks great as like a little film camera, it's not really everything that I want in a film camera in that sense. And I don't mean that. I really actually like this camera. And like I say, if you're a birder, if you're into bird photography or sports photography, this is where you want to put your money. If you make your money taking pictures of high school football games or whatever, this is the camera for you. This is going to change your game. For us, I'm not so sure that it will. We do a lot of wedding photography. I don't often need the brides. you know what I'm saying? Like, they're not usually tackling each other. There's the odd cowboy wedding, but you know, like, no offense to cowboys, respect. Anyway, no. Without further ado, I like it. It's not a good camera for what I do. It's a great camera for sports photography. Excellent camera for that. So we'll be keeping it around for a while. I'm excited to test it against whatever Canon comes out with the rumored releases and the announced release of the R1, which we know isn't a global shutter at this time, but you know Canon's going to come and answer back to some of this stuff. It's going to be interesting. So if you have any questions, if you want to see us test this against some things, maybe, like I said, the video capability against the video capability in one of the Blackmagic cameras, we can do that and see where we end up. Like I said, not a bad camera. It's an expensive camera. So if it's your first camera, I wouldn't unless you intend to do your entire business based on sports. So, all right. have a great day. I hope you like and subscribe. And again, all these tests are just tests we do for you, not necessarily for my opinion. So you leave some comments about what you think in the footage down below. We'll see you in the next one.